Welcome back to the Country Maro YouTube channel, Internet Land. I am Country Maro. Today I'm going to be taking you guys through how I'm going to be building a portable tomato trellis. So here to start off, I have two pieces of 2x8 that I bought. I just went ahead and bought the 10 foot and cut it in two so they're 5 feet high. So these trellises are going to be 5 feet high. However, if you want a taller trellis, higher one, you can go with whatever height you want. I'm just sharing with you guys how I'm going to be making this tomato trellis. So my first mark, I'm going to put some mark on it where I'm going to run the trellis board along. My first mark is going to be at 8 inches. When I set this, my first trellis board will be at 8 inches to start catching those tomato plants, and we'll be taking them all the way up. So we're doing 8 inches. This trellis is supposed to be of some leftover board from what we were using to make our new garden. So we're just using up materials that are just laying around the yard right now. These are some 1/2 inch by 1. They are 8 feet long, and we'll be using them to run the trellis board across. Here we go, everyone. One side is done. I just placed the two pieces of 2x8 to the side, use 2 cement blocks to hold them up, and then I went ahead and just put the strips along the side 8 inches apart on one side so far. So I'm going to raise it up now and do the next side. I thought I was recording doing this, but when I check it wasn't recording, but you guys will get it. I'll definitely go slow and show you guys. So we're going up now with our cage or with our tomato trellis. Maybe this is gonna need more than one, but let's see. And this trellis won't be right here, or maybe, but I'm just assembling it here. So same as how we have this part, just as how we have these 8 inches apart, that is how this side is going to go on. And then the tomatoes will be planted in the middle. They'll grow up and have support on the trellises. I'll also come across with some rebars so that the tomatoes doesn't fall inside. This tomato trellis or cage, it was inspired by my uncle. I think it was Saturday. I was lying down and I was saying to my wife that I remember a tomato cage that my uncle had when I was growing up, and the tomatoes were always so beautiful in it, and I'm gonna make it but in a slightly different way and share it with the internet. And this is what it would have been. One side was attached to his house, and then he had these bars coming down and another piece of wood on the next part where he had some sticks coming across, and he would plant tomatoes in it. And for some reason, I don't know why, sometimes he'll just move it to the next side of the house when tomatoes are down there, attach it to the house again and plant in it. So this just came to mind, and I was like, that would be a nice portable tomato cage to share with the internet. So this is mine that I'm sharing with you guys, inspired by my uncle. I also believe this is a great cage idea because a lot of people plant tomatoes tomato is like one of the number one gardener crops that you can find. Almost every gardener wants to know how to grow tomatoes better. So with this right here, I hope I can bring you guys this portable trellis or tomato cage that will help out in the garden. So tomatoes are one of the most grown crop. Most gardeners grow tomatoes in their garden. So whenever you can come with great ideas for growing tomatoes, whether it be by cage, trellising, however, let's just share it and help other people to garden better or easier. So we're almost done now. I'm just going in with the last board and then we'll find a way how to support this thing. Here we are. This is a tomato cage or a tomato trellis, something that tomatoes grow up on, that almost anyone with a little help or anyone that is a bit handy can make on their own. If not, two people easily can make this tomato cage, and it's quite inexpensive if you can find pieces of board around the yard, or even if you should go to the big box store. This would run you less than $25, and I think a single tomato cage, the wire cages, are like maybe about $5 or $4 a one, maybe more. I'm just guessing because the last time I bought those was like 6 years ago. So I'm just saying, you have this is all treated lumber. It will last a while. I know that your concern is that it's going to tip over. Yes, that's a great concern. But you can go in with T-posts and stake it on one side and on the opposite side also. Also, if you have cement blocks, you can go and you can tie it down to it. But these are quite strong enough and will last long enough with your tomatoes. These can give you maybe a good 6 years before they start to rot or anything. And I doubt, especially these side pieces, are going to rot right anytime soon. So I'm just gonna go in now with some rebar and show you guys what I'm going to do. This is going to be a very sturdy tomato cage. I'm going to go in with a few rebar now, which are going to act as support. This is strong because tomato plants won't be going anywhere in these, but it will also be acting as support for the plants not to falling down on each other in the cage. So I'm just going to stagger a few. When you're making, if you're making yours, you can just stagger a few. The distance that I'm going to get in between, it's going to be 10 inches. So I'm just going to cut a few pieces of board 10 inches long and drop them in and show you guys how they're going to look. And then I'm going to also go and show you guys the support system. So I'm coming up maybe to about here, and I'm going to drop one in. And with these cages, they're also good if you're planting your tomatoes in pots. Even make it better, you can move them around more. So your pot could hold in here, or you could remove these lower two right here across, put your pots, and then you have something to grow your tomatoes on. The higher up, it's the more we're going to need, because that's the point when the tomatoes will be starting to, tilt across. So higher up I'm going to put more. And then now As you put in your plants, you can adjust. But what this cage or trellis does, it saves you from putting tomatoes on cords and have to be there every 48 hours to 72 hours guiding your tomatoes up. In a system like this, you allow the tomatoes to grow. Every now and then you come out and you can put the branches where you want them, and you just allow your tomatoes to grow. They won't fall over on each other, and you can make this as long as you want or as short as you want for your space. So if you're even on a patio and you're planting your tomatoes in pots, what better cage would you want than this? If you're on a small backyard homestead, urban homestead like I am, and you want to move around some of the time, change your location, what better trellis than this do you want for your tomatoes? I was planning on putting tomatoes in a few of my beds on the edge, but then now remembering this idea, or remembering this plan that my uncle had using years ago, I then decided that my garden beds will be for other plants. Tomatoes can move around my garden throughout the year. So I'm not sure where this is going to stay or this is going to go for my fall tomato season, but it is going to be movable. So a trellis like this will work for most gardeners. Whether you're on 10 acres or just a few square foot, this is a perfect trellis. Or I should say tomato cage, whichever one. In a tomato cage system like this, you can get 5 to 6 plants, depending on the type of tomatoes. But you can get 5 to 6 plants in a system like this. If you're going to be planting them, say, 18 inches apart. And for small backyard homesteaders and gardeners, you can go 16 inches apart. You don't have to go that 18 to 24 inches or 24 to 38 inches as what you see they're recommending most times. You can go closer with your tomatoes. So guys, here's my DIY tomato cage slash trellis. It's not better than anything out there on the internet. It's not worse than anything out there on the internet. It's just an option. I'm just giving you guys an option. So I'm just sharing my idea with the internet. It's a pleasure sharing my new DIY tomato cage or trellis with you guys. I'm not proclaiming this to be the best DIY tomato cage or trellis out there on internet land. However, it's an option. I'm just giving you guys option, other ways of doing things, and this is a unique way of growing tomatoes within a portable cage where you can have your tomatoes or you can move them around if your tomatoes are in pots. This is quite simple to move around, and you can get quite a lot of tomatoes from a cage setup like this. So if you want to go longer, as I've said before, you can. If you want to go shorter, it all depends on you, the gardener. The next beauty about this cage system, I honestly don't know where I'm going to plant my next set of tomatoes. But I have this system here, and wherever I'm going to plant them, they'll be in it, so I can move it wherever. Yes, this is a bit on the weightier side. One person can move it, I can move it, but I would recommend 2 people moving something like this if you're going to be using it as a portable tomato cage. If not, and you have it in one spot, it works same way. With this cage also, I know a lot of people are going to say that kettle panel make great cages, and I won't ever debate that. because I've grown tomatoes in cattle panel. But one thing I can say about cattle panel, it is not as thick as the board that we have here. And if you have ever grown tomatoes in cattle panel and have a limb that bears a lot of tomatoes and it should bend over on that cattle panel, you know that it's going to squeeze it and break. Here is way more support to hold your tomato plant instead of that thin cattle panel in comparison to the wood. Also with cattle panel, when buying cattle panel, sometimes it can be difficult in moving them. When I was buying cattle panel from Tractor Supply, it's a long piece of wire and you had was to get it cut there, fold it on the truck to take it home. And it's much of a chore for someone with a truck, moreover someone who is going to be trying to force that into a car with those sharp edges. So the boards, they're quite simple. You can get all of this cut up at your local hardware store, wherever you're going to buy your board. Just get the measurements, get them cut, you take them home and you just staple them together. Whenever you plan on moving it, if it's even you alone, you can unscrew them, put them in a different location and reassemble, just like furnitures in your house for most part that you can assemble and reassemble, disassemble. Let me just get one of my older wire cages and just make a comparison. So this is one of my older wire cage. Look where it stands, about waist height, and it's not even in ground as yet to support the plant. So when I push this down into the ground to support my tomato plants, it's going to be even lower just to get it to be strong. And they're quite fragile. They move about, you know, they're flexible. They're overly flexible, so they move about a lot with your tomato plant, especially in the wind. So the idea to stabilize a tomato cage like this, I would put a T-post on one end, one side, attach it to it, and put one on the front, so they'll be staggered. In that way, they can't move about, so this won't be turning over anytime with your tomatoes. So that's just another way. You can also put extended legs to the side, which I was thinking of, just to put two pieces of wood to the side like this. Here we are now with the final look of what the tomato cage or tomato trellis is gonna be like. Yesterday I had to stop because the rains came and knocked me off the work, but this is really what it's looking like. I went ahead for the lower row. I added in some bars so that once the tomatoes get to 6 inches or 8 inches thereabout, they can have support to start growing up and going all the way up this cage. So this cage should be lasting me for a while. It's treated lumber all around, and tomato plants are not heavy to break anything here. So with this tomato cage, it will also help me with space in my garden area. Tomatoes sometimes tend to shade out other plants. I won't be going into any of these beds now with any tomato for my next season or maybe onwards. I'll just find a place where the tomatoes are doing great in the yard and I'll just put them inside of this portable tomato cage that we have right here. So yesterday for this trellis, when my wife came home and saw it, she was saying that these little areas that we have here, we could put pots in it and plant the tomatoes, which is a good idea if you're somewhere other than Florida. But for tomatoes and Florida, I hear people say that they have problems growing tomatoes in Florida, but the soil here is just about perfect for tomatoes because tomatoes love a slightly acidic soil. On average, the pH in the Florida soil is about 6.2, 6.8 thereabout, and that's perfect for growing tomatoes. So I think it's just the insect load in Florida which is a problem for tomatoes and growers. After building this, I'm going to be putting in my tomatoes in September, early October, thereabout, into this cage. I have a few tomatoes that I'm saving from my old tomatoes. However, I'm going to be moving those around the yard in pots, just like that. But for my full growing season coming up, which is going to be this fall, all the way back till about April of next year, spring next year, in Zone 10A, Florida, I'll be using this tomato cage. So stick along and see how I grow my tomatoes in my new tomato cage. Country Maro, God bless you all. Hope you enjoy this one. Stay safe. See you in the next one. Cheers.